Good afternoon, everyone. All right. Well, as I'm looking at price action, looks like it just made a lower low in demand and looks pretty decent to bounce. But I'm going to be reviewing this morning's options trading. This first hour of price action was nothing but low probability events, one after another playing out. As you guys know, I only bet money on events that have a high probability. And occasionally you're going to get days that are just low probability. And it's not even like price action was terrible on each of the tickers, but combined, it was very complicated this morning. Very terrible price action. Now I get it. People were speaking. People have said Powell stocking, whatever it is. I don't care. I still trade every day regardless because it's what backtesting tells me to do. But yeah, so I finished this morning mild red by like one, a little bit larger than average full red trade. Futures ended up being green though. I took two green trades, but futures was absolute. I mean, you can tell by the price action. Uh, it was absolute hell, and it missed my stop loss by one tick. But I'll just be reviewing the options trading now. Here's where it started. As you can see, I'm obviously bullish. We do have some decent pivots above. We are making lower lows. This is bullish consolidation. So by default, I am bullish for all-time highs. Now, if you look at ES's all-time highs closely, you're going to see we have a lot of candles topping at the exact same tick. I mean, you can count this as a quadruple top. They're fairly close together, so I give it the same credibility as like a double top. But we have a bull flag, and we have this kind of top on, at all-time highs. Very, 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 very likely for this to break. Okay, I've been trading for, you know, more than 5 years now. This is a setup that breaks 90 plus percent of the time. I will always make myself available to potentially lose money on this setup. Not even lose money. I'm always willing to spend money to find out if this setup plays out because it's just so likely. So, with that being said, I'm obviously bullish. I need some things to happen though. I need us to, not really a lot, kind of invalidate this pullback that I'm able to get in. NQ has a decent little pivot right here. And we'll just let this play out. As you can see right out the gate, ES is stronger than NQ. NQ is getting a red candle. ES is getting a green one, a small green one though. And then I fill my calls, SPX calls on this one. Now still half size. You guys got to keep in mind that last week, the last 2.5 weeks of price action have been terrible more times than not. My average day, I've had one super bright, beautiful price action green morning a week. I average 3 to 4 of those a week, okay? Well, I usually average 3, but I average 4 green days a week and 4 days of solid price action. But that's been like one a week. So I told you guys last week that, okay, I'm going to be trading, I'm going to drop my size and I'm going to be trading fairly conservative. I'm not going to be taking a bunch of trades. I'm going to be trading lighter size. I'm going to be trading more conservative until I get 3 days in a row of really solid price action. Yesterday morning, beautiful solid price action, nothing but winning on futures and on options. Well, it's just a beautiful morning. So that was one. Still trading conservative this morning though. So I went half size. I wanted to average down in demand. Really, the PT is all the way up here. Now, it seems far away, but that's only 22 ticks on ES, which is nothing. I mean, if we zoom out, you can really get the picture that this is not a far PT at all. But because we've had so little volatility over the last, 18 hours, it kind of looks like a far PT. But this is a very likely trade. I don't know if NQ is going to want to go for the nearest pivot. And immediately look at the difference. Now, this is a great trim spot. I called it out. I was up 20%. I didn't really trim here. NQ put in a decent little trend line right here. Not perfect or anything, but NQ barely missed the high. And you can see that from the start, I knew, oh no, like price action is not doing what it should be. They should not be going opposite directions like this. This was a huge green candle on NQ. It looked great to break to the upside. It was looking like we were going to get all-time highs the next candle or within the next two candles. But NQ went from a massive green candle, turned all the way around, and started heading back to low of day. So that's when I found that, it's an issue. Now, ES's strength was extremely surprising to me. ES was extremely strong, which was a really big deal. And my stop loss was something like right here. Really big deal for the strength on ES. So I don't really sell anything. We pull back. NQ sweeps the low of demand, and look how strong ES is. It is incredibly strong. So incredibly strong. And I do say, if we invalidate, this little red candle right here, I will add some calls. I end up adding a tiny bit. But there's a liquidity sweep on NQ. ES is incredibly strong. It's not going down with NQ. I'm expecting NQ to get a little bounce. Should be time to go up on ES. It does not happen yet. And then it happens. I'm like, okay, that's great. I added a little bit here. But when the next candle, we made a higher high and put it in a selling wick, I did end up getting a trim for plus 40% gains. But unfortunately, somehow, some way, NQ keeps invalidating every single green candle that it puts in. Which is very interesting. These charts are going opposite directions, which is rare. But I certainly, because right now, ES is so strong, NQ is so weak, I can only be in SPX calls or I can only be in QQQ puts. Right? It's one or the other. But with this all-time high pivot here and all the tops that we have, if we are even remotely in the vicinity, which we are, this is a bull flag here, I have to be in calls. So it's SPX calls or nothing for me this morning. Now, I did get a decent trim here. Now, keep in mind, I was only a little bit bigger than half size. So when I trimmed, it was plus 40% gains, which seems like a lot. But, I only sold, I don't even know if it was half. It was roughly half of the small position that I had. So made some small gains there. Nothing crazy. And that's only because I didn't really trust NQ at all. I didn't really know what was going on. And then sure enough, NQ dumps. Now, there was a discrepancy in my trading, which I'll talk about here in a second. Anyways, ES swept demand. We did have a little pivot right here on NQ, which ended up getting swept. You can see how incredibly strong ES is. And I can't believe NQ is going down so much. And ES is still at my break even where I entered. Now, I didn't re-add anything, but I said, if we invalidate a majority of this drop, I'm going to re-add to this trade. Was it right there? Hang on. I need to check my thinker somewhere real quick. Yeah. So if we come back up, we invalidate majority's move, I will be re-adding to this trade, and I'll trim it at new high of day, but I'll leave a sizable, at least a half position size for this pivot. And if I wasn't committed to trading more conservative, I told you guys yesterday in the yesterday's review that I wasn't really conservative with yesterday's trading, so I tried to fix that today. If I wasn't trading conservative, I'd be full size in this right now. Well, NQ keeps trying to chop upwards. We start doing okay. I add a little bit more, about halfway up this candle, personally. This brings it back up to my original entry size, half size trade, nothing crazy. I'm concerned that NQ is putting in a ascending broadening wedge. And it does, but we sweep higher highs. Sorry, this is where I got plus 40%. I think the other one, this high touched 40%, but I trimmed for like 30-something%. When this high hit, I trimmed a bit, just a little bit, for like 45% gains. Was looking fantastic. NQ's chopping up. Chopping up is typically bearish, but I'm like, ES is so freaking strong. NQ has swept liquidity with a huge volume spike. What are the chances that ES misses this pivot? Keep in mind, it only missed it by one singular tick, okay? One tick, that's it. So I am extremely bullish. So I took a fairly minor trim. I said I got back in pretty much half size. I think it was a little bit bigger than half size because I trimmed and I was just under half position left. Like I didn't trim much here at all. Right, I was overall mildly green on the trade because of my trims here, but I really didn't trim much here because, again, how am I supposed to know that it's not going to hit the pivot? So I barely sold anything. And then NQ dumped and started pulling us back, and it's crazy how weak NQ was. And I can't trade puts. I cannot trade QQQ puts because I am so bullish for that ES all-time high break. And right here, I said, if I invalidate a majority of this move and we try one more time, I'm in there like underwear, full size trade, no half size anymore. I'm adding to the trade and that's it. That's what I'm going to do. Well, there was a discrepancy with the alert. I think it happened. Yeah, it happened here. We fell, and I did fill my stop loss on that last bit because just like yesterday, I don't want to flip my day red, right? Where I stopped out, my day was pretty much finished break even, okay? Or would be break even at that point. Right as I filled my stop loss, though, we got a volume spike and we bounced hard. Still way stronger than NQ. It's interesting though because ES, I mean, this was a massive red candle. NQ only got a tiny red candle, so maybe ES is starting to flip weaker. But I end up re-entering calls and pretty much just called it the same trade. I think I mentioned it in my channel, but it's like, perfectly swept my stop loss. I'm not going to alert my exit when it's already back at near break even. So scaled back in here. It was right here, and then during the next candle. I filled half on this candle, and right here I told you guys I'm in full size if this selling wick invalidates, and it did on this candle. Full size trade on this candle, very likely to play out. We have multiple lower lows in demand, a solid liquidity sweep with a very solid volume spike. We've invalidated a majority of the move. It is a hell of a lot stronger than NQ. NQ's chopping down. Starting to chop down. It's kind of chopping up too. I'm thinking maybe it wants to pull back to demand and then bounce. But this is such a likely trade. Solid 95% trade. And we got close. I was pretty green yet again. But then unfortunately it failed. ES finally started flipping weak, and I end up stopping out early. Not here. It put in a little buying wick. It did something. No, it did this. This. First half of this candle when it invalidated this buying wick, I was out. 1.75, pretty much right at the start of this candle. So I filled my exit at 1.75. It did bounce back a little bit, so you could have got a much better exit. But I ended up selling that for like minus 36%. Full size loss, and that was pretty much the loss I took. I chased that PT, and not chased in a bad way, but I chased that PT for an entire hour. That's an entire hour right there. That's a 7:30 candle, or almost a 7:30 candle. This is a 7:30 candle. I pretty much chased that PT for an entire hour, and it was very, very, very likely to play out. But the extremely unlikely happened. When ES was so close to hitting PT and it was so strong, NQ went straight down to prevent it from happening. Like straight down here. And then when ES was super close again, straight down here. And then by that time, ES did not, wasn't strong enough. Now, futures was the exact opposite. I was in NQ and ES was super weak and did the exact same thing. Like I said, futures, every trade was green, but again, both trades missed my stop loss by one tick. So I got very lucky. But yeah, that was my morning. One single trade, pretty much one single bet. Technically, this is two trades, but I didn't even get to announce my stop loss, and I just pretty much counted it as the same because I sold that trade not only because it hit my stop, but because it was pretty much break even. That yeah, I was red by one full size, 36% trade today, and that's just what ended up happening. And when I started futures, I was very prepared to enter longs for this break when it comes back up. That did not happen. You can see how choppy NQ was. It was absolute hell. But yeah, that did not happen. We ended up being super, super bearish today. So the fundamentals actually prevented this. And that's just going to happen sometimes. Sometimes you're just going to get unlucky. The low probability event's going to play out. The same thing like a casino, right? You can go to the casino and win 4 times in a row on roulette. Or maybe you win 6 times in a row on roulette. Super rare. The odds are super against you. But it's going to happen from time to time, and the casino's not going to care because they're still very profitable over the large series of events. today is a prime example of that. So there's nothing I can do about it. It is what it is. I take that exact same trade and bias tomorrow. But yeah, that is it for my options trading. One attempt and it failed it. So does anyone have any questions regarding this? And keep in mind, in hindsight, it looks like not a huge deal. But when you're sitting there thinking your PT is going to hit for an entire 45 minutes straight, get so close to your price target, and then NQ dumping again, and it coming all the way back down to break even and in the red, sitting there for 45 minutes watching that is not a fun time at all. So even though I kind of skimmed over the bulk of it, it was not a good time this morning. And it was even a worse time trading futures, believe it or not, even though I have a lot more money on the line on options. So can ES get to 66.98? I have no idea, dude. I'm not looking at it. I would assume no. Definitely not today. But maybe tomorrow. Any questions though? Everyone's pretty good? Pretty self-explanatory? Now, we fell really hard. We invalidated pretty much yesterday's entire run. And you know, it really sucks that I couldn't take advantage of the drop in the morning because obviously this PT was here, which is much more likely, and ES is just chopping sideways. And then when I'm trading futures, I can't take advantage of the drop because NQ is super strong and chopping sideways, even though I was short on NQ. So it was perfect today in the sense that the first hour got nothing. I was super bullish. That was the bias that I'm rightfully triggered into. NQ went down. ES only went sideways. No money made. And then I was bearish. I got triggered into NQ. And ES ended up going down. And NQ ended up going sideways the entire time. So even though it was green, for my trading sessions, which is 2 hours for futures, and then 1 hour for options, really unfortunate day to trade the times that I do because looks like things got very good about 20 minutes after I left. But all right, sweet. Well, that's it for today's options review. Pretty self-explanatory. Hopefully tomorrow is a lot better. But like I said, the timer reset. So I'll be trading conservative sides wise and trade count wise for the rest of the week, which means tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. If those 3 days go well, then Monday I will be back to my normal sizing, so on and so forth. So, and more trades. So hopefully they do better. But yeah, market's being very interesting lately. But all right, I will see you guys later. We'll review the futures trading in roughly an hour. And I'll let you guys know when this recording is posted.